Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Wave Listens Live. I'm your host, Brian Schlonsky. We've got a wonderful show on tap for you today as we take you right to the rundown now and show you the guests you can expect to join us here on the show. We'll be starting things off with Exum Group from Keller Williams, Louisville East, and then we'll move into the kitchen with Agave and Rye talking about National Margarita Day, and we'll round out the show third with Craftsman Flooring Today. But we mentioned we are starting things off with Exum Group. I've got three guests joining us here today. You know, Jackie Exum, Roxana Edwards, and Emmett Exum Jr., a mortgage lender, joining us here from the Emmett Exum team at Stockton Mortgage. So welcome all of you to Listens Live today.
Thank you.
Let's start with you, Jackie, because we're talking a little different than what we sometimes focus on here when you guys join us. So we're talking about today, right time to buy a home or just start getting invested in real estate altogether.
Exactly, that's right. So, you know, there's been so much chatter in the last year or two about if it's not a good time to buy because interest rates have normalized slightly, and so that's made people nervous, and the media has done a lot of talking about that. But the reality is that it's a great time to buy, especially if you do not own your own home, because that means you're paying 100% interest rate, not 6 or 7, right? So the other thing is you're still paying a mortgage payment, you're just not paying your own. So it makes really good sense to buy. There are a few scenarios where you may need to think a little bit more about if it's smart to buy. The two main reasons would be, one, if you're not sure you'll be in the property for more than a year or two, it may not make sense at that point to buy unless you plan to keep it when you move out as a rental, which is a really smart move and a great way to get started in investing. Highly recommend. And the other scenario would be if you are not up for the responsibilities of homeownership, because, you know, there's no one to call if the toilet is leaking except for yourself.
There's not a maintenance person around the corner, right?
So you have to be, you know, you need to have the resources to be able to handle a situation like that, and if you don't want to deal with that, then home ownership might not be for you.
It's good to have these conversations, though, because you mentioned all these places that people get their ideas about whether it's a good market or not, and you guys actually know what's going on. So talking to the experts sometimes the better way to go about, especially when it's a big purchase like a home and investing. Roxana, you're well versed when we're talking about property management, the rental market. So what trends are we looking at when it comes to rentals right now?
Sure. Well, you know, I've been in this industry for 20 years now, and I've never seen rental increases like we've seen in the past few years. Rents have just skyrocketed. We're seeing them level off just a little bit right now, but they're definitely not going down, right? So, you know, and like Jackie mentioned a minute ago, there are some situations where it does make sense to rent. You're going to be somewhere short term. You're in a transit situation. But in a lot of situations, it makes sense to be your own landlord, right? You're not going to give yourself any rental increases. You can set your own rent. It's like your own rent control. So, you know, you're going to be somewhere long term. You want to build your own wealth. You don't want to build someone else's wealth.
Yeah, it's great to keep in mind, and, you know, it makes all of us wonder how long can these increases continue to go, because eventually people will, you would think, just stop doing it.
Well, you know, housing is one of those things that we will always need.
So no matter what,
it will always be in demand. And so when you are a renter, you're not in control of your cost of living.
Sure. Okay, let's move to Emmett now, because I want to talk about securing a mortgage loan, because now we're sold, right? We're all saying we want to make sure we get into a property. So what do I need to have in order to start that process?
So first and foremost, you know, it's extremely easy. You know, a lot of people get overwhelmed and may not think that they're ready because they just simply don't know. The process to owning a home can be very simple, very easy. You know, first, what we like to do is just to sit down with them, have a quick conversation, kind of talk about their goals, their wants, their needs, and then we invite them to complete a loan application. You know, taking that very first step of just submit your application so that way we can review your credit, make sure everything looks good as far as your income. You know, it brings a sense of calm to them. And the process is not as difficult in terms of lending guidelines as some people might think. You know, you can still get it there, get a good interest rate. You know, I know it's higher, but you can always refinance. But the process is super simple, super easy, and we lead them down that path.
And once you get started, you start to probably feel more comfortable as well. Let's talk, I'm going to stay with you for a second.
Sure.
Any missteps steps we should avoid if we're trying to secure a mortgage?
Absolutely. We always call them our do's and our don'ts in the process. And so we want you to understand your credit, but we don't want you to take out your credit, right? Don't go on any third-party websites and pull credit. Let us do that for you. Don't change any jobs. We have people that think that, hey, I'm going to make more money to be able to do this, let's switch the job. Which certainly, it's good to make more money, but you want to do it at the right time, so that way we make sure we don't jeopardize the process. No new cars, no yachts, no boats, or anything like that. Anything that could affect your credit. Also, one thing that I see, we want you to save money.
Right.
But as a lender, we don't want to see a lot of movement. And so some people will take their money from one account, move it to this account for the process. You don't have to do that, because at that point it creates what is called a paper trail, and now we have to document where the money flows. And so just keep the money there, save it, let us do our job, and we'll get exactly what we need.
Great advice, great things to keep in mind. Okay, Jackie, if we want to get started on this house hunt, we want to get in touch with your team, what are some of the things we need to do?
So reach out to us, call us, text us, email us, and we want to schedule what's called a buyer consultation, where we sit down with the potential buyer and talk through what exactly it is that they want to buy, what's on their wish list of things that they want, what can they afford, have they connected with the lender. That really is step one.
Yeah.
When you go through the process of buying a house, you need to have a letter of pre-qualification from a lender. The reason that is when the time is right to submit an offer on something, you have to send that letter with your offer, or the seller will not, in most cases, entertain your offer. You've got to have that ready to go. So we like to have that early on. And then we set up something called a market watch, where as new listings hit the market, it's emailed to our client, it's emailed to us, and we can all monitor what's coming to market and start looking at property.
Find that dream space. Okay, speaking of that, Roxana, the last question I have for you guys before we got to let you go is, there's a newest listing, and I know we've got some video and some things to show.
Yeah, so we have this amazing new listing. It's in Valley Station. It is 3 bedrooms with 4 bathrooms. It sits on 1.81 acres. So this is very rare to find a property that large. It has a 1-car attached garage and a 3-car detached garage, so lots of workspace. So this is a really unique listing. So if you're interested in seeing this or have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to us.
Okay.
Address on this one is 6711 Fincastle, and we have an open house this Sunday from 2 to 4. So stop on by and see us.
Yeah, come by and check it out. You guys will be there?
Yeah, one of us will be.
All the beautiful photos we're seeing. Well, thanks all 3 of you guys for being here today, sharing the advice. It's a lot of great stuff to keep in mind, and just hearing some of this, like you said, cut through that chatter of what you hear online on the TV, and hear from the experts like the 3 of you. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Brian.
much.
All right, stay with us here on Wave Listens Live. 2 more great segments to go. We are moving to the kitchen for the next